You think you're communicating clearly in your relationship because you're saying a lot, right? But what if the problem isn't that your partner isn't listening? What if it's that they don't understand you? See, a hard concept for a lot of people to grasp is that over communicating does not equal clarity, right? And it may be the actual reason why you keep having the same repeat arguments over and over again, or always wind up feeling like your needs just aren't being met. So I'm gonna give you 3 relationship communication mistakes that kills clarity. And the first offender is you're saying everything, right? But prioritizing nothing. When you vent or express everything you're feeling without helping your partner understand what matters most out of what you're expressing, right? Like what's the center point? What's the bottom line? What you're trying to get them to understand at the end of the day, they tune out. Not because they don't care, but because they're overwhelmed at this point. Here's an example. You say something like, I just feel like I'm always doing everything and it's exhausting and you don't even notice. And last week, when I asked you to help with dinner, you still didn't, right? You said a lot just now. But what you didn't say clearly, right, which is what you're really trying to convey, was I just need you to take more initiative in helping with the load around here without me having to ask you. That was your main point in all that venting. But because you didn't say that clearly, your partner heard a slew of issues and problems to be dealt with versus one core centerpiece that those points you pointed out are byproducts of, right? And this is actually one of the core reasons why men and women struggle to communicate effectively, right? Because man brain, right, masculine energy based, it's set to be problem solving, right? Its focus is on black and white. What's the issue? Let me go knock it down and take care of it. But oftentimes women are speaking from the core of a obstacle or struggle they're having with their man, but they're using all the little moments that compile together that are based from that core issue. And they're speaking about all those little pieces, and their man is trying to go like, using a laser gun and trying to attack all the little issues and solve those little mini problems, but it's not getting back to the root. So the issue persists and it continues on because now she doesn't feel heard because another situation happens. And then here we go again. And he goes and tries to put out the fire she presented to him versus the core root to the issue. Now, this is a people problem, period. People do this no matter if you're a man or a woman, to where they don't give absolute clarity on what their most important point is in their vent, right? That happens. But this is more of a common thing from women trying to get their man to understand where they're at with something. So the way you fix this is you anchor clarity with priority. Meaning after you get done venting, you express yourself and you speak out all the things that are on your mind and what you've been, holding in or what's been going on or whatever. You always circle back and you finalize it with, if you remember one thing from what I'm saying, it's that I need X, Y, Z, whatever your thing you need is. So that whenever it's all said and done, there's no confusion about the bottom line thing or point you were trying to get across to your partner. That's how you make sure what your message was didn't get lost in the mix of you venting as a human being would do when we're frustrated and going through things and we got a lot to get off our chest, right? Make sure in that moment, in that expressive space, doesn't get lost the main point you wanted to be taken home, so you don't wind up having to have another conversation or argument to where you're expressing these same sentiments again. The second relationship communication mistake you're making is you keep repeating yourself without adding meaning. Saying the same thing over and over again doesn't help if your partner doesn't understand why it matters to you so much or what the impact is. One of the biggest things I teach my clients when it comes to effective communication with their partners is the first step is always vulnerability. You have to give substance behind the thing you have an issue with, right? What is the significance in what your frustration or your concern or the expression you're trying to give is, right? Why is it so deep to you? Because you got to think about it like this. If you're with someone that you believe actually does love you, which I hope you're only out there with someone that does love you. If you don't think they're a good person, you think they don't care and all that, then why are you still there? But if you believe they love you and you love them, then They would never intentionally want to keep doing something that just upsets you, right? But it happens whenever two people just have opposing perspectives sometimes. So if you're only talking about the surface thing, like, oh, you don't help with dinner or the dishes or whatever the thing is, and they can easily not see it from your angle and just think, oh, you just, believe something different than I do. I don't need to change for you. And they start to give pushback and they can fight against it, or they get defensive, and all those things happen when it's all surface level. But whenever you can give the human reason underneath that, right, that we all can relate to, because we all have the same core needs, and we usually start to speak up and get into arguments whenever one of our needs is feeling violated, and we have to champion for it, right? That's when you start to go and you vent, you start expressing yourself and all those things. So whatever your issue is, it's coming from a human understandable space, right? They don't have to agree with the reason you got there or your perspective overall, but they can at least empathize with, relate to, and maybe sometimes sympathize with the human reason the space is coming from you. But they won't know that if you don't give them more significance. An example is you saying to them, I keep telling you I don't feel appreciated. But what does appreciation look like to you? Why does the lack of that appreciation, or how does the lack of that appreciation affect you on a deeper level? Give substance, context, something they can connect to and relate to and empathize with, right? Because without that, then you just keep saying, I don't feel appreciated. They're going to take that and interpret it however they can for the way they see appreciation being handled. Maybe they feel they're doing things to appreciate you by their standard, by the way they see it, by the way they expect to be appreciated, right? Maybe they think they're doing what that looks like by their definition, by their way of living, right? Or maybe they are someone that doesn't really need to be appreciated a certain way. Like they feel appreciated just because you're with them. They don't need you to show it in different ways. They're really easygoing in that way. They're off and they do their own thing, and they don't really need you to show much intentional appreciation. The fact that you still choose to be in a relationship with them and, get up next to them every day and love them and everything else, that's enough for them to feel appreciated. That's their definition of it, right? You're leaving it to chance of what their worldly view is versus giving them the answers to what it means to you. So they can say, oh, okay, I get it. For you, appreciation needs to look this way. Oh, I get it. For you, when you're not appreciated like that or in that way, then now you feel like you don't matter and all these different things. Oh my gosh, I don't want you not to matter, right? So the fix is you have to learn to reinforce the why behind the message. When I feel unseen, it makes me disconnect emotionally. I start to shut down, not because I want to, but because I feel invisible. So it's helpful to me that whenever I do things that you do appreciate, that you verbally acknowledge it sometimes, right? Let me know that it's being seen. And the third mistake you're making is you talk often, but fragmentedly. One day it's a fight, one day it's a text, one day it's the silent treatment. But there's no ongoing thread that can be strung together. There's no clarity. There's no agreement. It's just scattered messages that never fully land. It's when you've brought something up in 5 different ways, but your partner doesn't realize it's all part of the same issue. So they don't know how to respond to the real problem because they're not aware that the real problem is strung through all 5 circumstances because they look different. They have different wrapping on each one, even though they come back to the same center space. They're lost in the sauce because as far as they're concerned, what happened on Monday has nothing to do with what happened on Wednesday, or what took place this morning has no connect to what happened this evening. And oftentimes it could be completely different circumstances altogether that still comes back to the same root issue, but it's so fragmented and it's scattered. They would never connect those dots unless you tell them this is the core issue I've been having that is showing up in all these 5 different areas. That's a way different way to connect it all to make it all make sense. So you have to learn to create threaded clarity, meaning bring it all full circle. So you say something like, remember when I said blank last week? Well, this connects to that. I think it's all coming from blank, to where you're tying all the different moments you've been having that comes back to that central issue you had. and you're speaking it with clarity. You're articulating it verbally with clarity to where they can now see the dots connected because you connected them for them. Don't leave it the chance for them to try to connect them on their own. Now, I get it. If you have now done this, right? If you have spoken with this type of clarity and said, hey, all these things connect to the same issue, and here's the root issue, and they continue past that point to still just keep doing the same things, then yeah, don't keep telling them. You made it clear now. Now give them a chance to turn things around and catch that new pattern and break it for themselves now that they're aware. And if they never break it, never become aware, then now we have a different conversation. Now you have to start reassessing whether you can continue forward with this person if the things they're doing is to impact you on a deep enough level. And after you've been very clear and you're on the same page about what's going on and where you're struggling, then if they're not willing or able to work forward with you and grow with you and make the adjustments, then now you have a question to ask yourself on whether this is the person you need to continue to try to build with. The point is, clarity in a relationship is not about how much you say. It's about how easy it is for your partner to understand, remember, and act on what you said. So if you want better results, don't just say more, say it better. Connect the dots and lead them to understand you, not just hear you. If that's something you need help with, cultivating the skills and the tools to build that muscle so you can be the biggest driving force to create better communication in your relationship, to make life better for you, for your partner, and for you guys as a unit so you can thrive together instead of barely trying to survive together, then email or DM me the word coaching and we will get to work, only if you're truly ready to put the work in. If you're not ready for one-on-one coaching, then the time, space, and maybe in the resources, maybe you and your partner, right? Then at least email or DM me the word transformation, and I'll send you the link to my transformation course, my relationship renewal course to be more exact, that I teach you the same things I teach my clients one-on-one at your own pace, on your own time, at a resource level, way more fit for what you can afford. But at the very least, do something to get in the race. Let's get it.